Hey again. So this is the end of that first lecture about for piano level 1A, introducing music reading, right? How to navigate on the piano. So this is page 6. We're getting there. This part's shorter, I promise. Okay, so the first thing they talk about is rest values. And we've seen all these different kinds of notes. We said quarter notes, half notes, whole notes. But those are things that you hear in music. But there are also rests, and rests are silence in music. So just like the note values, there's specific amounts of time associated with each kind. So the first one's a quarter rest. It kind of looks like that lightning strike. And they say it's one beat, just like the quarter note, it's one beat long. So if I stuck one here, so it kind of looks like lightning, right? It's so like this, kind of curvy at the bottom. Anything that looks about like that should be a quarter rest, right? So just like with the quarter notes, this is a quarter rest. So this is just one beat long. So if you had, let's just, as an example, we'll just write some notes in here. Let's say we had these notes that look like this. So this is 4/4 time, right? A lot of this stuff, you already know some of this anyways. So here's one measure. And this would sound like, these are all quarter notes. It would just sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? One beat each. If we took out one of these notes, say we took out this one and stuck a rest there instead, there's still 4 beats in here. It's just that the second beat is silent. So it would sound like this. You got 1 rest, 3, 4, right? That's the idea. Is just one beat of silence, right? So you let go of this sound. Don't keep holding it. Holding it would be a half note, 2 beats of held sound, 1 beat of sound, 1 beat of silence, and then you keep going. Okay, so the same idea with a half, right? You going back to here, a half rest looks like a little hat. And the whole rest looks like a hole in the ground. One of my students said that. It's kind of funny. These look almost the same if you stick them in the staff lines. They're slightly different, but just in context, you can kind of figure it out. But okay, so here's a half rest. So it sits on top of the third line like this. It's just a little rectangle that sits here. And the whole rest sits under, oops, stick it over here, the 4th line. Right, so in context, it's just a big rectangle sitting here or it's sitting there. So if it's sitting on the line, it looks like a hat. This is a half rest, 2 counts of silence. Right, and then this one's a whole rest, 4 counts of silence. Or in fact, the whole rest is kind of a funny one. It means to rest a whole measure, no matter how many beats. Usually we have 4 beats, but we talked about places where it could be 3 beats or 2 beats. But whatever a whole measure is, you're going to rest the whole measure. You notice there's not a dotted half rest. Usually if you have to rest for 3 beats, you just put a half rest plus a quarter rest, right? That adds up to 3. All right, hopefully that makes sense. So a rest just means silence for that amount of time. All right, so going back to the page, we have what's called the grand staff. And that is like this. You've got a treble clef, which means, again, it's your right hand. The bass clef is your left hand, right? And these are bracketed together like this. So when you have that, that means this is going to be piano music, right hand, left hand. If you have like a whole score with, like for orchestra, if you have violins or flutes or whatever, those are single line instruments. The piano is one of the only ones that has 2 lines hooked together because it's right, left hand, both doing stuff at the same time. All right, so it always looks like this. And here they're just kind of reminding you where the 2 hands are. So we talked about, this is your left hand. Here's middle C, right? So let's look at what happens with middle C first. Your right hand, your thumb is on middle C. And then your other fingers are on adjacent white keys, right? C, D, E, F, G, like this. Then your left hand is below that. The C below that is your pinky, right? That's your 5. Then 4, 3, 2, thumb is on the G, right? Like this. So actually I'm going to stick this up on a stand so you can see this and put my hands here so you can kind of get acclimated. So again, here's the name of my piano. So this is the center. This is the 2 black keys. That's your middle C, my middle C. So my right thumb is sitting there like this. The left hand is the C below that, which is this C. So that's our position that we're starting in, and we're going to be there for a while, but just kind of getting used to that. There's 2 keys between the A and the B that you're not playing yet. But this is the basic C position, left hand and right hand. Okay, so back to the page, just a few little things at the bottom here. So it says beginning to play. Playing the piano should be comfortable and relaxed, right? With the help of your teacher, you're combining proper playing posture with relaxed arms and fingers. Fingers should be curved, right? And so a lot of these things, it's kind of common sense, but at the same time, when you're starting something new like this, it's very easy to be tight or stressed out. So just try to stay relaxed, right? So the big things are sit straight, lean slightly forward, position at the piano. Future ones, I'll kind of set this up so you can see me. But the idea is when your hands are here, at some point you're going to use these pedals down here for your feet, right? So you want to not sit so close to the piano that you can't see your feet. So you're going to sit a little bit away, about, a foot, I would say. Your bench is about a foot from the keyboard, so you have some room to sit in here and your legs can fit in there. All right, so you're sitting straight, lean slightly forward, shoulders are relaxed, elbows are light and flexible, right? So here's an elbow of mine. So just make sure that you're able to move left and right, up and down if you need to. Wrists are light and flexible. So the position of your hand, let me just hold on to this a little bit better. You want to be able to move your wrist like this, right, up and down. And you want your fingers slightly curved. When you're playing, you don't want to think about pushing on the keys because that makes everything else kind of straighten out and rise. If you think about pulling, it's a lot more natural, it's faster, and it's a lot more relaxed. And it'll sound better, actually, as you're playing. You'll hear it eventually. So as you're playing, just think more like you're pulling on the keys. Right? It's nice and simple. If your fingers are straight, it's going to sound mashy and it's hard to move around, right? So keep it round. Some people say think about holding a bubble, not a ball that you squeeze, but just like a light bubble. All right. Back to the page. Fingers are curved, like we said, and lift and strike each key individually. And you can try this out playing your left hand, your right hand. You notice we had note values like these ones. As you play the next one, release the previous one, right? So you're not ending up holding everything. If there's a hold, you'll see a different note value. So like these left hand notes from C to G, so C, D, right? The idea is to play each one at a time, but let go of the previous one as you play the next. What you don't want is a big space in between, because then it doesn't sound as good either. So hold this one till the next one, kind of mash them together. Then it sounds like singing, and it sounds nice. All right, that's it for this part. The next lecture, we'll head into page 7 and play some songs. All right, thanks.